I'm here at HQ systematically laying out everything I've learned over the past 10 years about athletic development. And yes, I use a laptop because I memorized nothing and it makes it easier, so shush. What is the science of athleticism? If athleticism is a house, in no particular order of most importance, we have 7 bricks: joint health, muscle strength, tendon stiffness, muscular stiffness, which all have structural balance that can be obtained on both sides of the body. Then we have coordination, then energy systems, the anaerobic, aerobic, and PCR energy systems. Then finally recovery, referring to sleep, nutrition, and various wellness equipment. Brick number 1 is joint health. This refers to the cartilaginous and ligamentous development of the structures between our bones. The cartilage of a joint is biased most when training within a full range of motion, increasing synovial fluid saturation, preventing the cartilage, this cushioning material inside of our joints, from breaking down and even improving its thickness over time, achieved with structural balance when using reverse RDL for the hip. Here, I'm elevating the heel with a wedge to posteriorly glide my hip before I even lower down. This will ensure I'm maximally targeting the hip joint to get decompressed as I come to full range hip flexion, low abs, touching thigh, hips behind heels, and then exploding up. And if your hip is too locked up to even get into this position, we use the reverse hip thrust to zero in on the hip. Form cues for this are pelvis level, collarbone level, hips behind heels, keeping the shin nice and vertical, tap the opposite leg's toes, and press up. With this motion, we're mobilizing the posterior hip capsule, which will improve your potential to develop all these structures in the posterior hip. You might be thinking, what sport does this benefit? Don't think of it like that. We are building up structures, which applies to any sport. Likewise, for the knee, to get those same benefits, starting with front foot elevation and progressing to flat ground, we use the ATG split squat, elevating our heel to pitch our weight forward, which will maximally stimulate the knee joint by reducing any help from the ankle muscles, which will lead to the same thing: more synovial fluid saturation, more cartilage thickness, more cartilage surface area, and this applies to all sports. And same thing with reverse pullover for the shoulders. Arm length out and up, that gives you leverage to pull down while still allowing your elbow to bend. Gripped arms foot on a buddy that's out far enough so that you can sink your hips back. Then pelvis level, collarbone level, lower down to your max shoulder flexion, pause, and then raise yourself back up with that working arm. This is not only getting us those benefits in synovial fluid saturation, cartilage thickness, and cartilage surface area, but it's also allowing us to open up restrictions in the cervical and thoracic spines by mobilizing my traps when I root the arm down and mobilizing the lats as I lower down, giving us greater external expression due to gaining more internal access. Now let's consider the structures that hold the knee together: the ligaments. Ligaments endure strain and adapt to become thicker and more resistant to injury depending on the angle of loading on the knee joint. For the knee, we use the Poliquin step, an exercise named after Olympic strength coach Charles Poliquin, created as a means of a substitute for the much harder to balance Peterson step, a movement pioneered by Olympic physiotherapist ski coach Carl Peterson, a heel up version that is crucial to prepare skiers for the rigors of their sport. The Poliquin step is used to prep the knee specifically for the general unilateral nature of athletic activities. It does no good to be strong on 2 legs when your 1 leg strength is as weak as a feather. But from the literature, the benefits this creates are quite amazing. I'll put a photo of Aaron Swanson's squat force chart so you can see what I mean. Cyclic tension at shallow knee angles activates living cells in the ACL to create bigger and stronger ligament over time. The bigger and stronger it becomes, the less likelihood momentum will rip it apart. And the form cues are simple: pelvis level, collarbone level, unlock the knee, bend down, knee over toe, opposite leg pointed up, kiss the heel, and press up. You can progress with more elevation, you can regress with less elevation, and you can also regress with assistance by holding onto a pole. What about the PCL, the crossed ligament on the back side of the knee? The PCL is strained with deep knee angles when the foot, particularly, is plantar flexed and the hips are extended. This ligament prevents the shin from moving backwards, and obviously this movement is putting the shin backward relative to the femur. You get stronger and bigger PCL the more long-term you perform this movement. It's not going to be an overnight thing that you develop this ligament, because ligaments take longer to develop than muscles, but the beauty of it is, just like the Poliquin step, this move scales with shoulder height and tempo. Go down slower and use more height, and then progress to faster with no height. So stronger cartilage, stronger ligament. This is the foundation of your house of athletic development. Brick number 2 will be muscle strength. There are 3 primary means of training your muscles in terms of the action it's performing and its state of length: concentric, eccentric, and isometric loading. Concentric actions are when the muscle is shortening, eccentric actions are when the muscle is lengthening,
And isometric actions are when the muscles remain stable.
all of these actions are occurring while the muscle is generating force at the same time. Let's go through the specific training effects depending on the state of the muscle during its contraction. Concentric action has been shown to improve neural output, that is, the strength output from the brain to the muscle, to increase long-term force development. Eccentric action has been shown to improve muscle length, leading to less choppy movements, less likelihood of pulling or tweaking a muscle during a sprint, and greater fluidity in sporting movements. Isometric action places greater tension on the tendon, as the muscle and joint being blocked from moving leads to the tendon being pulled on, forcing it to adapt to become stiffer, which leads me right into brick number 3, tendon stiffness. This is a quality of the tendon in which a high value represents greater athletic potential. The stiffer the tendon, the less likely you will waste forces as you perform athletic movements. The more floppy the tendon, the greater wasting of forces. We want to increase these qualities as long as our muscular stiffness increases in direct ratio. Because think of it this way: if your tendon is so stiff that you can't get any length, you're not getting any extra boost from your tendons. This is because the tendon can't recoil if it can't lengthen. And at the same time, if your muscles are too weak to pull on a stiff tendon, then in order to get that elastic boost that your body needs to propel you forward, your body will instead use the tendon to pull out the muscle. And over time, that's how you get something like a muscle belly tear. The stiffer the tendon, the more muscular force required, not only for the performance of the tendons, but the health of your muscles. It does no good to have stiff tendons if you don't have the means to stretch them. Without tendon stretch, you have no bounce. Or at the very least, you're relying on muscular stiffness for that bounce, a whole lot less efficient and slower to occur. From a training standpoint, the more you force the tendon to endure high intensity muscular contraction, especially when the joint and muscle are not changing in length, the greater the stiffness increase in that tendon over time. This is through laying down newer, stiffer tendon cellular material and crosslinks. This brings me to brick number 4, muscular stiffness. The more you do slow tempo contractions, specifically at a longer muscle length, you will break through old stiff crosslinks on the tendon, which decreases tendon stiffness and increasing muscular stiffness and collagenous deposition in the muscle. You essentially make the whole muscle tendon unit even stiffness-wise, more stiffness in the muscle, less stiffness in the tendon. This might limit your capacity in the short term for things like jumping and sprinting, but in the long term, you will set yourself up in a better position athletically by continuing to progress to greater and greater capacities without suffering tendon or muscle injury. And at the same time, as you cycle from slow training to fast training, you will break through those older cross links and lay down new ones that are designed specifically to the proportions of the demands of your sport. Let me give you some examples. Short duration overcoming isometrics are great for the Achilles tendon to lay down different material and more cross links. Fast eccentric pause squats are great for the patellar tendon to lay down stiffer material and more cross links, but plyometrics are great for both Achilles and patellar tendon stiffness as you lay down that stiffer material. That's your fast work. Or your slow work, continuous slow contractions in straight leg or bent leg calf raises or even outer range calf raises will break through older collagen crosslinks and increase muscular stiffness capacity and all of the lines of pull possible on the Achilles tendon. Continuous slow contractions in the VMO squat, reverse Nordic, and couch deadlift will break through older crosslinks and increase muscular stiffness capacity and all the lines of pull possible on the patellar tendon. Having more muscular stiffness means more capacity to develop muscular force and thus greater signaling to that tendon in those fast activities to lay down crosslinks that are specifically adapted to your current level of muscular force development. That's why the best training programs are sure to cycle fast plyometric work with a slow contraction work. You want both to be ever increasing so that you are turning over those crosslinks and improving upon both qualities. In order to functionally tap into both muscular stiffness and tendon stiffness, you will need an immense amount of coordination. You can do plyos and weight room work all day, but if you can't transfer that to the court or the field, it means nothing. That brings me to brick number 5, coordination. This refers to the interplay of the athletic task and your ability to process that task quickly and efficiently. I've actually made an entire video outlining my approach for coordination, specifically for American football, and I'll overlay it right now. Route running. There's 32 total foot plants depending on the hash, foot, and pattern that's ran. We have from the right hash a left foot plant with an out pattern or an in pattern, a right foot plant with an out pattern or an in pattern, a right left plant, out in pattern, a left right plant, out in pattern, and then when we add hesitation, we have a left plant, out pattern, a left plant, in pattern, hesitation, right left plant, out, hesitation, right left plant, in, hesitation, left right plant, out, hesitation, left right plant, in, hesitation, right foot plant, out, hesitation, right foot plant, in. And to get the other 16 route combinations, you just simply go to the other hash and repeat the same plants. The greater balance you get in your route running will mean less overloading of your structure and greater overall athleticism. So what I want you to see at this point in this video is how all of these bricks build upon one another. Let's work backwards real quick. If you don't have healthy joints, then being coordinated in a cut, crossover, or jump is going to be very limited due to pain. If you don't have strong muscles, your movements will have impaired quality at the very least, and you won't be able to stimulate your tendons effectively. At the very worst, you could get a muscle tear. If your tendons cannot maintain stiffness, then the moment those muscles pull on the tendon, the muscular force and momentum from the plant will be wasted or could even damage the tendon. If you're injured, good luck being coordinated, leading to less speed and less vertical jump. Every single brick I mentioned has interrelated effects that are crucial for long-term development of an athlete. Before I go into the last 2 bricks, just know that I personally had issues in nearly all of these bricks and missed out on a chance of competing at the collegiate level because of it. The goal of my training was to simply work as hard as I could. That hard work led to patellar tendonitis, Osgood-Schlatters, hip flexor tendonitis, and a meniscus tear, which impeded my ability to fully tap into my own muscle strength, which impeded my ability to fully develop my tendons. So although I was a very fast athlete, my body was unable to handle it. I also had subpar coordination. I couldn't run a route to save my life. I could beat anyone off the snap, but couldn't slow down enough to make a tackle. I've since transformed my athleticism to levels I hadn't thought possible. It's not some sort of gimmick or magic pill. There is no overnight fix. It took me and the rest of the ATG team years to transform. But the purpose of this is to show that you can do the same thing if you willing to systemize your training and patiently lay down each of these bricks. Brick number 6 is my favorite to teach, and this is the energy systems. Let's move to the table because I'm sick of being over here. Energy systems. This includes the PCR, anaerobic systems. For the sake of conciseness, I'm not going to explain all the nitty-gritty of these systems, but I will give some fundamentals. Depending on the intensity you work at and the rest you take, you will bias more and improve the quality of one system more than the others. First, the phosphocreatine system can be dubbed the sprint and jump system, having stores of around 8 seconds of energy by virtue of high energy phosphate molecules bound to creatine molecules and release immensely fast during max intensity activity, things like a sprint or a jump. This requires the most rest to replenish fully, some estimates being around 40 seconds of rest needing to recover from a full second of max effort work. The rest time is crucial if you're looking to stress the system to the max capacity. The signal you give the body here when having ample rest is, I want to become explosive and fast. Train fast to become fast. The specific adaptations include quicker releasing of energy, greater stores of creatine, which means greater binding of phosphate and thus greater stores of energy, leading to greater duration and explosiveness of the system. So just think of this when it feels like you aren't working hard enough to create actual change. You won't feel this happening. You got to take it by faith. Second, the anaerobic system can be dubbed the sprinting system, releasing energy from glucose stores in the body at a rate slower than the sprint and jump system, but still quickly. The body breaks down glucose or sugar stores in the body without oxygen, anaerobic, which creates lactic acid, a combination of lactate and hydrogen ions, the lactate actually being used for energy back in the system, and the acidic hydrogen ions end up challenging the efficiency of this system. More acidic, the slower the body is able to access this glucose. Think of sprints like the 200 meter or 400 meter. You know that feeling when your legs are about to fall off during that final bend of the 400 or the 200? That's hydrogen ions, making you more acidic due to the intensity by which you are demanding the body to cleave energy from your glucose stores. So it's actually not lactic acid, it's the acidity from the hydrogen ions that's the main culprit. Recovery of the system is related to clearing that acidity that I was talking about. The more intense the exercise, the greater energy needed, and thus the greater glucose broken down, and thus the greater acidic byproducts of that glucose in the body, and thus finally greater rest required for your body to clear it. Sprint fast, more hydrogen ions in the body, more rest required. Sprint slow, less hydrogen ions in the body, less rest required. Both target anaerobic metabolism, but at different intensities. This will create different adaptations. Same energy system, but one is trained to endure long and slow, while the other is trained to endure long enough, but fast. Athletes need to train to be fast. That's an absolute statement. There's enough energy for around 3 minutes in this system if you go slow enough. Sure, you can get great at harnessing anaerobic power for 3 minutes at a time, being a very adept middle distance runner, enduring, say, 70 to 80% of your anaerobic capacity for 3 minutes at a time. There's nothing wrong with that, but I wanted to be a football player and yet trained like a middle distance runner. We want to build race horses, not plow horses. As experienced by the most intense 200 meter, 400 meter runners, even 20 to 50 seconds can be enough to absolutely toast the system, flooding the body with acidity that muscle burn every 400 meter runner has experienced on that last bend. So when you're doing a lot of volume with low rest at slow speeds, you're actually making it too easy for the system. It's able to clear that acidity, but it's learning to do so after sub-max speeds, not max speeds. So internal adaptations to the system in the context of max effort sprinting includes 2 things. 1, improving buffering capacity. The body will actually develop anti-acid substances to allow it to endure that acidity, matching the amount of the acidic hydrogen ions produced. The faster you go, the more hydrogen ions and the greater response in the body to produce anti-acid substances. 2, enhancing the amount of enzymes and lactate transporters to be used back into the system for energy. The faster you go, the more lactate you'll produce, which means more transporters the body will adapt to have. So a given bout in the future will have a greater likelihood of maintaining anaerobic power, meaning faster sprint speeds for longer. Conversely, the slower you go, the less lactate you produce, which means the less transporters you will adapt to have. So a given bout in the future will have a lower likelihood of being able to maintain anaerobic power, meaning slower sprint speeds, but for longer. Application to all of this, doing traditional interval training can be great at allowing you to endure submax intensities, the low rest, high volume stuff, but it will not prepare you adequately for the rigors of max speed, high intensity sport. You will become great at running slow and peter out when running fast. A good visual might look like this. Drill A, 2 times 100% intensity sprinting for around 23 seconds, which if traversing 200 meters in that time, can amount to a 4.4 40-yard dash speed the entire race, with a whole 8-minute rest between bouts as pioneered by legendary track coach Tony Holler. Versus Drill B, 16 half-gassers of 106 yards across the football field, down and back at a speed of a 6-second 40-yard dash time, resting only 45 seconds between each bout. That can hardly be viewed as being beneficial to the sprinting system, and as I'll discuss practically, this is not how high school football players are tasked to perform during a football game. Each play instead averages anywhere from 3.5 to 7.5 seconds from observational research on the subject. If you train slow, you will become slow. You don't want to be the best at running slow. That's what I was. I won every gasser and prided myself on it, yet I couldn't run routes to save my life, nor have enough power to make tackles. I worked myself out of a sport. Yet this is exactly how off-season training is performed, not just for football players, but for every sport. The same application is with basketball. You don't want to be good at running slow with thousands of suicides. If you train slow, you'll become slow. The best athletes are those who can sprint so darn fast that those gassers and conditioning drills aren't really affecting them. An athlete who can run a 4 or 5 second 40-yard dash time is not going to be tasked by a 6-second 40-yard dash speed demand, and that's what you get with gassers. What if you demand them to run for 8 seconds as fast as possible, 100% intent, 3 times with 3-minute rest in between? I'd reckon that'd be well worth more of their time and effort for football players, and they'd actually enjoy it. You can use your imagination for other methods. Resisted sled work can quickly tax out that anaerobic system with the extra resistance on the backwards treadmill. On the backwards treadmill, I've been going 100 steps backwards as fast as I possibly can, then 50 steps forward as fast as I can, making it around 30 seconds of high intensity effort. Aerobic can be dubbed the run long, rest hard system. At any point of the day, this is what you're using the most. A slow release of energy at rest, and in long distance training, the more bias you can get the body to drift towards the system, the more efficient you can be and the less energy you will waste. Aerobic refers to the utilization of oxygen, which the sprinting and sprint and jump system do not utilize. Training your body to pump the heart and bring blood and oxygen to all the structures of the body. This is crucial for long-term recovery and supplying your body with the nutrients it needs to adapt to become stronger and faster. Adaptations include more cardiac output by increasing stroke volume. You can also decrease resting heart rate, reduce blood pressure, increase blood volume, and increase the amount of mitochondria, the powerhouses of the cell. More powerhouses means more energy. It's that simple. Now, in reality, you use all of these energy systems in competition in some fashion. Let's take football, for example. A D lineman uses the sprint and jump PCR system to push the offensive lineman out of the way and get a quick jump off the ball. But then the offense goes no huddle. Now he has less rest. Now that sprinting anaerobic system that's taking over, but between plays, his aerobic system supplies his body with oxygen as he recovers on the sidelines. So to recap, sprint and jump system improves its effectiveness by sprinting and jumping at a ratio of around 40 seconds of rest per second of effort, capping at around 8 seconds of effort. So a sprint session for this might look like 4-second sprints as fast as possible, around 2 minutes and 40 seconds of rest, repeat, perform 3 times. And a jump session for this might look like jump times 10 to 20 times with 40 second rest between those 1-second jumps. Or a route session for this might look like 10 to 20 routes with 40 to 80 seconds of rest between those 1 to 2 second bursts out of those routes. Sprinting session might look like 23-second sprints times 2 with 8-minute rest, 20-second resisted sprint backwards, 10-second resisted sprint forwards times 2 times 10-minute rest, or 8-second sprints with 3-minute rest. And then simply run long, rest hard session might look like low effort treadmill or sled, or simply walking or jogging, all at a pace of a talking threshold. If you can talk, you're still using oxygen, and adaptations to this aid in your recovery. Duration depends on your demands and your goals. I go on a 20 to 30-minute walk every day in order to keep up on this system. This finally brings me to brick number 7, recovery. This includes sleep, nutrition, and wellness equipment. First, sleep. Some studies reporting athletes need a range of 8 to 10 hours, sleep needing to be treated as important as training for those serious about their athletic development. All the other bricks I mentioned profit nothing if you don't give your body a chance to respond to the stresses it's being tasked to endure. Things you can do to improve your sleep schedule: having a wind down routine. Maybe it's journaling, prayer, reading, something that allows you to cast the cares of your day away and get into recovery mode. Getting natural sunlight in the morning and avoiding blue light at night. This can get your body in a rhythm where it starts to habitually recognize when it's time to mobilize itself for action and when it's time to rest and recover. Don't drink caffeine in the afternoon. Given caffeine's half-life is 5 hours, you can drink a coffee at 2 p.m. and it'll still be there at 7 p.m. and you probably won't clear completely at 12 a.m. that night. Obviously, avoiding alcohol, limiting late night meals, but also being realistic. Don't limit your nutrition because it's late. I like blackout curtains as well to make it easier to drift to sleep when there's street lights outside of your window. On nutrition, I'm not going to act like an expert on the topic. Fernando Lopez is someone on the ATG team I highly recommend looking to in relation to nutrition. What I try to maintain myself is 1 gram of protein per pound of goal body weight a day, and the same thing with carbs. I'm also not in a sport every single day, so those values may increase substantially in your case in order to match the energy output you're giving out during your practices or games. Remember, you can't burn energy in those 3 energy systems that I talked about if you're not fueling yourself to begin with. We want these to come from natural, whole food sources. Shoot Fernando a DM if you have any questions here. Lastly, wellness equipment. People ask us all the time, what are our thoughts on massage guns, foam rollers, those kind of things. While I don't think those things are bad, I do think they can be a detriment if you're using them for the wrong reasons. At our wellness lab in Youngstown, Ohio, I use massage guns, cupping, dry needling only as a means to create an opportunity for those dealing with chronic nagging issues. They can make some people feel really good, sometimes good enough to get into exercise for the first time in a long time, giving them an opportunity to work into joint, muscle, tendon, ligament development from exercise. And once they get on that route, I don't look back. We don't want those things to become a crutch. Movement is medicine. In our wellness lab, we sport an infrared sauna, which uses infrared light to heat your body while keeping the air around you unchanged, making it a less intense experience while still getting the benefits of heat accumulation, which are more circulation, better pain management, and improved sleep quality. If you're looking to improve body composition for any reason, a 30-minute session can burn 400 to 800 calories depending on the temperature and the individual. I'm trying to cut a bit so I can continue improving my vertical jump, so it's been a game changer for me in addition to my morning walks. We also have an ice bath, which in addition to the same benefits of the sauna, can help reduce chronic inflammation and improve your cognitive function. We also have a Joovv red light device, which increases production of mitochondria in the body to help with all sorts of repair processes associated with aerobic metabolism, like I mentioned before. But this is most famously known for its ability to heal the skin and improve things like acne or scars, which we pair with PEMF therapy, pulse electromagnetic wave frequency device therapy. This activates the PNS, parasympathetic nervous system, rest and digest system, with gentle frequencies that elicit structural changes around and within cells cells that force the body to tone down and recover, aiding in tissue regeneration through the stimulation of nitric oxide. We also have a vibration plate I personally utilize alongside the ankle session of my ATG Science blueprint to increase motor unit activation, flexibility, strength of the foot and ankle, and these benefits span any body area you decide to work on the plate. And finally, we have Normatec boots that help to compress your legs from the bottom up using inflatable pockets, improving lower extremity circulation. To summarize the purpose of this equipment, to aid the body in its recovery process, not to become the recovery process. These are always a means to a greater end, getting you to realize that not any one person or equipment or even program is going to get you to reach your athletic or wellness goals. It's the body itself that will get you there. You just need to put it into a scenario that allows it to thrive. If you have any questions about any of these bricks and how to build them up stronger in your specific athletic development scenario, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram or comment below. I'd gladly help assist. I'm also available to be booked for in-person training, and I'm offering memberships to the Youngstown Wellness Lab, a facility I operate in Northeast Ohio that features a full ATG gym and all the aforementioned equipment that I just described. If you'd like to visit, again, let me know. I've linked my email in the description, as well as a link to my online programming with a discount code that makes the first month less than $25. Here's your greater pursuit of truth.